Hello and welcome to Trust Your Glitter podcast. This is Christy. I am here with the astrology transits for October the 15th through the 22nd. We are going with these transits. This is a turning point month for us all here on planet Earth, and this week continues to deliver. So I don't know how your eclipse went this past weekend with the build up to the eclipse. I mean, even thinking about the build up to the eclipse, we had Venus change signs last week. We had Mars change signs last week. We had so many aspects last week. And then we had the Libra solar eclipse. And I was drawing out the next few weeks, like in like a block schedule between lunar cycles, and kind of looking at all of the lunar lessons we're going to receive in the month of October. This is the month. So if you've been really putting in your 10 of Wands energy, for example, where you're like working, hustling, putting those hours in, that time in, October is a time where these points change for us. And for me, it's like, as I was looking at this, and I just like made a little drawing because I wanted to really block out the time. From the solar eclipse, before that, we had a Aries full moon. I would argue that it was that Aries full moon that really kicked off that magnetic eclipse energy. We are still in that magnetism right now, and we're in the pocket of magnetism. We're in that mode right now where it's between late September all the way to the earliest of November that we're going to be experience this whole change in the story, this whole change in the game plan. And so I was thinking about football, and I'm not like a huge football fan, but I know enough about football that this eclipse, we were kickoff. Like, we were at kickoff with just the game. Actually, I would say we were at kickoff with the full moon in Aries. The game has been going, and now we're headed to the 50-yard line with this week. Between this week and October 28th's eclipse, and I'm talking in American football terms, but we are at the fucking 50-yard line. And that 50-yard line that we're approaching right now is really, really asking us a lot of different things. So let's go through by date. And my voice is going to be very shaky for these podcasts because I am out in the desert. And it's just, lessons. But let's do this. Okay. So as I record this, October 15th, we have an influence of the Sun quincunx Uranus. This influence hasn't stopped in the last few days, and it's going to continue throughout our week. So I just want to say that there is kind of this aggravation, irritation, sort of impetus energy where there are things that are going to be out of our control fully for the next 2 weeks. It's going to feel like you have to put up your hands and surrender to just the beauty of the universe, and B, yes, bless you puppies, bless you. I am with Happy the dog in the desert. He just had a puppuccino. I don't know if it was his first puppuccino, but he definitely had a puppuccino today from Starbucks. We had our artist date today, and he is like the happiest dog right now. He had turkey bacon and puppuccino, and now he is like loving and living life out here and sneezing from the desert sand. But if you hear Happy the dog, he's just saying hello. So we have this, like, it is maybe Happy was our spiritual, it's like a sneeze. It's like a cosmic sneeze going on in our life with this quincunx. And these quincunxes aren't just with the sun this week. And in fact, I just want to top off and say the most active energy this week is with the sun in Libra, Mercury in Libra, and the South Node. We have a lot of energy with the South Node still playing out. And because the solar eclipse we had this past weekend was on the South Node in Libra, there is this continuation of the eclipse story. It does not end. Our lives are changing. There is a reason. Our relationships are up for highlight. The dynamics in relationships are up for highlight. If you're thinking about relationships right now, this is an assessment of every single one of them. This is like, what built you for the last 18 to 20 years? And how do you want to reflect this and change this and flip this around? And then at the same time, you're looking at this from like 2016. Like, how is something kind of repeating itself from then? Or how is it healing? So like taking it a step forward. So you're not that person anymore. You're not entering these relationship cycles anymore. There's a lot about, how we relate to ourselves here. There's reflection. So the way I look at reflectors in our life is like we might attract mirror relationships, and all relationships are mirrors. Libra is assessing the duality of everything going on. And I like the South Node in Libra because, it gives us tools. Whereas say like a South Node transit through Scorpio can kind of feel like we're lost in the dark. So now that we have like a South Node transit in a sign that really does want to seek understanding of relationships, I want to say like, because there is like with the sign of Libra, there is trying to understand the other side. It doesn't mean you have to be the team player. It doesn't mean you have to be on that team. So say like there's a lot of divorces going on. I just know this. There's a lot of breakups going on. This is when this week paperwork stuff is going on. So we had, maybe you're negotiating a contract, maybe, especially because on the 17th, Juno enters Virgo, and Juno is the asteroid of partnerships. So for those in healthy partnerships who are like working through just like on a great dynamic, this is a great day to really assess like, hey, how you doing? Let's bring it together. Let's figure this out. Let's like figure out the logistics, like who picks up, after school, like who does all, let's figure this out. So there's a lot of let's figure it out this week. In unhealthy dynamics, this could be like, you get them 3 days a week, like really figuring out that side of the logistics, really figuring this out from a perspective of needing mediation. Libra is legal mediation type stuff too. So this is also something to really note, that this is the week of mediation. And I think it's so symbolic. Again, 2023, most synchronistic year of 7. Between these eclipses, we get Mercury in Libra and the Sun in Libra in sort of this mediation status throughout the week. And the days I would really want to circle or highlight on the calendar, and I know for me, this is where I'm looking at, is between the 18th and the 22nd. So we get a couple days of, I don't want to call it reprieve, because you got to stay on your task. You got to keep creating and doing your thing. But the 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st, and 22nd are powerhouse days. So as we look, and by the way, we're going into Sunday the 22nd with another powerhouse day and enter yet another week, which leads us into another eclipse. So we have a powerhouse week more towards the end of the week. We're still in processing mode for a couple, like take your journal out the next few days and just write. Get that shit out. Let yourself see. Because the downloads that come through are the kind that you're going to get in some sort of reflection mode. And journaling is a perfect way to reflect, mirror work, anything where you have a partner dynamic. So journaling is a partner dynamic. Looking in the mirror, asking yourself questions, that's a partner dynamic. Speaking something out with like a friend, that's a partner dynamic. But these are healthier partner dynamics. So on the 18th, circle this date, Mercury, semi-square Venus, and the Sun conjunct the South Node in Libra. Now, this influence has been around us with the eclipse, but it's an exact conjunction. So the South Node's at 24 degrees Libra, the Sun's at 24 degrees Libra at that date. And the interesting thing to note as we're assessing the healthier dynamics, again, in our roles in our relationships. In this particular case, like, I really do feel like there's a lot of business energy to this, meaning like there's a lot of career activity here, and I'll get into that in a second. But the next day, the exact next day, Mercury is conjunct the South Node in Libra. So this is important to note because here we are with, Sun, Mercury, and then the Cazimi between the two happens on the 20th. So the 18th, 19th, and 20th are busy ass motherfucking days. These are days where a lot of communication goes down, whether it is healthy or toxic. You're going to have to figure that out. You're going to have to know this. You're going to have to trust your intuition. On the flip side, these kind of transits do bring in like people from past lives, people you felt like you've known for your whole life. If it does bring in past people, it's not like a Mercury retrograde or like a Venus retrograde where it's like, see, this is tricky because it could be like, say an ex reaches out to you. It could be that. But the thing about that is with this, you're going to have hopefully, all things considered, this eclipse made you have like a come to universe moment. And in this particular case, if somebody reaches out, hopefully it's to settle some shit. Rocking the boat is more Scorpio stuff. In this particular case, rocking the boat would be, it's because they create a dynamic within you that's really unhealthy. When it comes to these 3 days, you have the choice. You have the Libra choice in front of you. Do you fall for the old ways? Do you decide, hey, I can do better than this? For those in healthy partnerships, this is just one of those dynamic conversation type times where it's like we're having the conversation right now. So if it's like, what are we? This is a really good week that if you're in that crux point in a relationship where you're either going for touchdown or you are deciding if you're separating ways, this is a really good week to have those conversations. And there's a success here though. So I'm going to get my water. All the Libra air energy is like, it's one thing to be out in the desert, but on days like this where it's like stagnant and because I'm like in a situation right now where I don't have electricity and I'm just out here, I have to be really, really, like efficient with how I use my energy. And so, days where I have to record and upload, I have to be very vigilant about when I do all of this. And right now I'm recording in the desert heat. So it's not so easy on my voice, but it's where I feel the energy the most. So just a little personal aside. Okay. So as we flow through this week, I do want to say the dynamic between the conjunction on the 20th of October, it is the date of this is where a lesson goes down. This is where, and I know stand-up comics and artists and writers listen to this, so I want to say, like, this is your day. And I would say the 20th for those who are submitting, like, writing packets, book stuff, like anything related to publishers. Although it's not ninth house, it is finding a relationship where you can have a mentorship relating to publishing a book. This is where legal documents, like, there can be a vibe of going back and forth, but it is actually, there's a constructive mechanism here. Contract signings, things like that. This is when you get the news. This is when you receive that kind of like, oh, we have you in mind for this thing. So I want to say the 20th is huge. And I want to say also that with that, we are, and let me just check. Did I overshoot my dates? No, I did not. Okay. I don't want to be retrograde vibey. But the 21st, we also have a first quarter moon in Capricorn. This is important to note. So as the sun and Mercury align and they're just past the south node, they connected with the south node, there's a past life or a growth from your past, meaning like you've grown forward from this, you've developed from this. Past node is not, south node is not always bad. Looking at our past is not bad. It's just that you've matured since this. The thing about this whole dynamic is the next day there is a first quarter moon conjunct Pluto, and this is square to all of this energy. So we get this very, very strong conjunction with the first quarter moon. We're coming out of the new moon. We're heading into the full moon. Here's the test date. So our tests are between the 20th and 21st of October. And the reason why this test is coming through, and it's a big test because it's the test in between the eclipses. This is 50-yard line right here. How far can you get the ball past this point? Is there teamwork involved? What relationship dynamics do you need to get to a better place? How do you assess this growth cycle? How do you say that you've contributed to this game so far? And I have no idea why football was like the thing I was thinking about when I was looking at these eclipses, but Libra is about teamwork. Libra is about really looking at the better good for the partnerships. You know, are the people in your life supportive of your truths, of your pursuits, of your passions? You know, what team were you on before? What dynamic were you in before? Obviously, this is like, you know, this can be anything. This can be, you know, where did you come from and where are you going to next? You know, where were you raised? You know, how did that contribute to this? And how did you evolve past this point? How can you be more in your Venusian self here, your self-care? You know, how can you connect from a space of, you know, we see this for this justice from this perspective of like, you know, we're going at this full heart here. And so I really like this with the quarter moon because it's not scorpionic, but it is in certain ways. And here's why. The North Node, A, is in the sign of Aries. Mars is in the sign of Scorpio. So where we are being pointed is to look at taking authority and power back. Now with Mars in the sign of Scorpio, that is a fighter. You know, we have some fight going on here. So there can be a little bit of push and pull on the 21st with the first quarter moon. I feel like with this, it's like you have very distinct, like this side has your back. This side is where you've got to let it go. You've got to cut it out. You've got to say goodbye. And that is what Pluto square the moon is saying. Like, you may have been stuck in those, it might be like, and I've been using the term trauma bond for a really long time now. But trauma bond no more. And I like the next day for this because I call it, the 22nd is motivated annoyance. So throughout the week, we have yods in the sky as well, which are these fingers of fate. And the yods talk, or they converse, or they connect, or they vibrate with the sun, the South Node, and Mercury in Libra. And then if you think of like two spokes coming out, we have Neptune in Pisces who's in retrograde, and then we have Uranus in Taurus who's in retrograde. This whole week is like that feeling of, even if you want to keep yourself in the same position, the homeostatic position, you can't, but you also can't control it. So what you can control is the present. Like, how do you feel in the present? What are your emotions in the present? How do you really dig in and focus on your mental wellness as priority and hold that vision? Because you can't control another person's decision. You can only sit in your space. So it's like letting the universe take you to touchdown, but knowing that you're not quite there yet. So this particular week, you can kind of see that goal line. And at the same time, you're like right in the middle of the field. And I find it extremely synchronistic that on the 22nd, Mercury enters Scorpio. And next week, we're going to have, this Mars-Mercury sort of. So we went from Sun-Mercury to Mars-Mercury, and then we're going to start changing astrological seasons. So it's really important to get yourself in a position where you can meditate daily, go for walks, visualize, be in your creativity, and really let yourself have some space this week. But at the same time, know that there's going to be a little bit of, I don't see it as chaos. I see it as aggravated motivation. Again, I'll say aggravated motivation, motivated annoyance. Like, oh, this gets under my skin a little bit, but just enough to make sure that you stay on point, that you stay on your game, that you keep your eye on the fact that you're not here to just sit back in life and be, whether it's, healing victimization, being a martyr, that kind of stuff, that a lot of that South Node Scorpio stuff was trying to purge out of us. And as we prepare, because we're going to have a Taurus lunar eclipse, and I'll definitely get into that next week, but we're preparing for that. It's going to take, if we don't prepare for that now, it's really going to take a toll on our body next week. Obviously, everybody has a different sort of lifestyle. You might be just burning the candle at both ends, all these different things, but please take time for yourself this week. Let yourself kind of be in your presence if you can. Partnerships will be in your mind. These things take up our mental space, but it's asking yourself, is this a healthy dynamic to keep in my brain? Or is this something where it's like, hey, I gotta really let you go. I gotta write a letter to you. I gotta rip it up, put it in the trash, save it for that full moon. But these are the sort of things we're gonna be assessing. So I want to say thank you so much for listening to Trust Your Glitter this week. I am having some vocal issues this week, but you know what? We're going with the creativity. So I want to say thanks for supporting the podcast. I absolutely love doing this podcast. And however I'm going to show up, you're still going to get a podcast every week out of me. So if I'm on, my face is on camera, if it's a visualizer, ambient sort of video, I'll be here. I just want to send so much love and lots of light to everybody out there. You can find me on social media, Christy Belich, and Trust Your Glitter on Instagram. And have a great week.